guidance. We guide, listen, and connect small businesses, startups, and entrepreneurs. Sharing knowledge and stories is why I started the Facebook Live. So if you do have any questions, please ask. If you're watching this after the fact on another social media channel, ask your question. We will get to it. I'd like to thank Evolutionize for their sponsorship. They're Alberta's mobile optometry clinic, a traditional optometry clinic that brings their 40-foot Winnebago to you. Today's Telling It Like It Is guest is Katie Findlay. She's a manager of trade at Calgary Economic. Katie, how are you today?
Doing fine. How are you doing?
Well, I guess we're all kind of in the same boat, making things work. I mean, my youngest daughter wanted to showcase all her paintings, so I got them in the background. We've been lots of arts and crafts and fun stuff.
Yeah, it's prettier than the ski boot graveyard I have behind me. Where it's just a sign of the ski season that's sadly over. But
oh, I know we're talking. I mean, before we were talking about how some people, my wife's at home making makeshift offices and doing things with the kids. And I mean, I know it is a little bit of a struggle for some people, but I'm sure everybody's making do and thriving out there.
Gosh, I hope so. I mean, I think we're day 9 or day 10 from working from home. So, I do have some past experience from running a work shift or the marketing communications for work shift through Calgary Economic Development, which was promoting flexible work. So, I've got it dialed in a little bit, but certainly was not prepared for this indefinite nature of working from home. I do miss people, so this is nice.
Yeah, it's amazing. We were talking about it again before. I mean, we're probably more connected now with all the video calls we're doing. You said your team has a meeting every day at 3:00, and you're staying, really connected.
Oh, I have talked to them more than I think when we were in the office, for sure.
Exactly. I know I ended up meeting Amy, and I can't remember where I met Amy, but she introduced myself to you and Shauna. We had coffee, and I got to learn a little bit about what you guys are doing, and probably 3 or 4 months later, here we are.
Hard to believe. Yeah, it doesn't seem like that long ago, and yet at the same time, almost a lifetime ago. I feel like we've known each other for a long time.
No, exactly. Well, I'll do a brief introduction here about yourself, Katie, and then we'll get at it. So Katie is a business development and international trade specialist helping Calgary companies reach their global potential. With over 12 years at Calgary Economic Development, Katie has a deep and diverse network of contacts and resources specifically related to the growth and expansions of SMEs locally and internationally. Her current role includes leading the TAP program, the Trade Accelerator Program, and an innovate dynamic program designed to help small or medium-sized enterprises plan and prepare for the long-term success. So I know I've been to a few TAP events, and that is awesome, and we'll talk about it in a little bit. But I mean, obviously, with your expertise and what's going on, not knowing what's going on with the coronavirus, I kind of want to touch base and get your you to share your knowledge on what you see going out there right now.
Yeah, obviously things change every single day, but Calgary Economic Development as a whole is working pretty diligently to be a trusted resource, right? So we're collecting information. We all are sort of dialed into different aspects of the economy in Calgary and different levels of government. So we're working pretty hard to collect as much information as we can so that we can share that with our companies. We've created a page on CED.com, CalgaryEconomicDevelopment.com, that is collecting those resources. So for now, it's just trying to curate information, share it through all of our channels to ensure our companies are as informed as possible. Excuse me, but we talked a little bit about there's some good stuff happening too. We've seen some emerging great stories that we're going to try and share through our channels about Calgary companies that are really stepping up to help the community.
No, and I do, and I do like that, and we've seen some really great stories out there. And why don't we start with that? Why don't you share some of the things that some of the people that have come out of your program and that are doing out there to really help the economy right now?
Yeah, you bet. So the Trade Accelerator Program has a pretty fantastic group of alumni. We're up to about 120 companies now that have, well, at least graduated or are halfway through. We did have to put one of our cohorts on pause. But our tap grads are really stepping up. So a lot, we have Burwood Distillery, which is one of our grads that is, as are many other distilleries and breweries, but they're creating hand sanitizer that they are giving to healthcare workers and fire stations, and the community at large can go and purchase for a small amount that they are, I believe, in fact, they're donating that back. So that's one. Good Lawyer, one of our recent grads, is a new technology platform where they're offering sort of 15-minute increments for free to companies that really need some guidance and some advice from a legal professional to navigate some of these challenging times. Box of Docs is another great one. They're a technology platform for municipal governments. They are actually sharing their subscription services for free across North America to different municipalities. And really, it's about sharing best practices and documents and information, which, as we all know right now in this time, it's pretty critical that if there are great things happening in one municipality that could support other municipalities as they're navigating this time, that would be invaluable. So just some really great stories. And, we'll be sharing some of those in our upcoming e-newsletter. And I know that CED and others, the chamber and the newspapers are all looking for these stories as well, so that we can kind of uplift the community a little bit and show the great things that our companies are doing for each other.
Oh, and that's great. And I know it's so important. I've talked to probably over 20 small business startups over the last little bit. And even us at Peer Guidance, we've waived all of our fees for the next 2 months. And we'll keep doing business as usual with them. But if that has to go longer, so be it. I mean, it's such a time for people to give back and make sure that when this does unprecedented time ends, that we are stronger and better for it as a community, as a province, as a country.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Exactly. And I know the Calgary Economic Development, you can just go into the comments section, click on their website. It'll take you directly there. And for everything that Katie's going to be talking about over the next little bit, you'll be able to access it there. So, I mean, obviously with CED kind of helping out, what else are you guys doing over the next little short term to help guide companies through this crisis?
Well, you'll see lots of this in the community. Obviously, our CEO, Mary Moran, is pretty dialed in at a high level with SEMA and the City of Calgary and our other business partners to really try and pivot and come together to offer, whether it's services or programming or information to Calgary companies in this time of confusion and uncertainty. So information is obviously important. A lot of our teams are pivoting. We offer a lot of programming to the community at large, the business community. That programming is pivoting to whether it be offered online in some capacity. We are also adding new programs. So we've got lots of folks coming to us with ideas about webinars or info sessions that they'd like to share. Sort of going back to that, good news stuff where there's others that are contributing their time and effort. So I would say right now we're essentially reimagining what our business plan looks like for 2020 and beyond, with the primary focus on supporting Calgary companies, helping them get through this time, and then positioning them to be ready to go or to continue to go if there's lots of companies that are still moving forward. So we want to just make sure that they're aware that we are here as a resource to support them. We're that connector. We may not know all the answers offhand, but I guarantee you within our networks, we know someone who will have that answer. So that's where we're trying to position ourselves.
No, and that's great. And sharing the knowledge and connecting people during this time is something that's so important. I know, Calgary Economic has obviously sparked growth in Calgary, not only during, or is going to try to during the coronavirus time here, but they have in the past. So, please share how you guys help entrepreneurs and small businesses.
Sure. I mean, in a number of ways. Obviously, you spoke with Danielle Torrey last week. She's with Startup Calgary. They're embedded within Calgary Economic Development. So there's a lot of great synergies between covering the full spectrum of the business, continuum. So from that startup phase, transitioning into more of a growth phase where that's, I guess, where I will come into play. So offering the Trade Accelerator Program, which really helps essentially small to medium-sized businesses prepare to go global. So they build their export or international expansion plan, and are dialed into a network of an ecosystem of people and resources that are here local, that are experts in their fields as far as helping them expand. We also obviously steward the economic strategy for Calgary and the New Economy, which is a business and community-led initiative that we are the stewards of. And essentially that it's around positioning Calgary to be the location of choice, for business, and for making a living and making a life. So I would say that we're just looking right now. Obviously, we're kind of in the same boat as everybody else. We're looking at what this new normal is for our community, and we will activate and pivot on those opportunities as they come. In the past, when the flood happened in 2013, Calgary Economic Development partnered with the Chamber and launched a huge local campaign around encouraging people to get back and support businesses in those affected areas. Obviously, everyone is affected currently with this COVID-19 crisis, but I would imagine that we will do something similar coming out of this, to really lean into the local business community and do what we can to support our companies, as well as continue to look for international opportunities, whether that's attracting business here or helping our companies expand.
No, definitely. And I even just posted up here, Steve Cushman, who was a guest, mentioned something that you did, saying finding the new normal in business. And I think that's going to be something that we're going to have to work on over the next little bit, to find out what that is, how it's going to move forward. I truly believe that this is going to make us stronger, and some of the companies will be better for it because of this. But I mean, you were really tapped into the scene probably more than anybody, especially over the last. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, the status of the entrepreneurial small business in Calgary, how is that? What's the situation of that right now? And is it possible for you to kind of break it down by industry a little bit? I mean, everybody in Calgary likes talking about tech. But there are some great startups that aren't tech and that are, food or ag. So can you please expand on that?
Yeah, you bet. So, I mean, with the Trade Accelerator Program, I'm fortunate enough that I do get to work with a lot of amazing Calgary companies that are really pushing the envelope as far as, trying to expand beyond being that sort of mom and pop local, startup or local business. They really want to take on the world. We've seen some exceptional companies, as you mentioned, in that sort of food and beverage space. The distilleries and the breweries that have emerged out of Calgary and the region are doing amazing things. Burwood, which I mentioned earlier, I'll have to check if it's Burwood or it may be a different distillery. I'm sorry, it's a brewery in Calgary that has recently been picked up by one of the larger ones in Canada. There are a number of companies outside of tech that are, well, they're great ones in tech, but they're actually within sectors as well. So, in the energy sector, we've got Seismic, we've had Noble Technology, which is the eye mirror, which is really cool, revolutionizing the retail industry. So, an interactive mirror in your dressing room that can tell you inventory, or if they don't have your size in the store, you can order it right to your home. It can make suggestions on, oh, you bought those pants, you might like this shirt. So they've had some enormous success with international customers like Tommy Hilfiger and Puma. Just drawing from the long list, we have Ellie Bianca, which is a skincare company. They're all natural. They're Calgarian, so they're manufactured. She's the scientist. She is the president of the company. She's the face of it. She's a stunningly beautiful woman with this amazing skin. So, just some really great companies that are really poised to do some wonderful things internationally.
No, absolutely. Do you see a lot of these companies? I mean, obviously through the TAP program, I mean, maybe what percentage or the process that they have to go through to expand internationally?
It depends, obviously. I think that, the companies come to us at various stages. So we have some that come that have not even, even tinkered with expanding globally or exporting globally. We have some that have already done it, but are, looking to come back and sort of refresh their plan, maybe take on a different market. Maybe they just did it sort of ad hoc and bootstrapped, and they really want to formalize the process. So the way that we work it in the Trade Accelerator Program is that we bring everyone sort of back to the fundamentals as far as building the plan. We do the business model canvas as it relates to their export activities. And, we hate using the word export because immediately like a tech company or a service company thinks, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me. I'm not exporting a widget to wherever. But, we look at it as, if you have international activities, if you have an international customer, if you send people or your service or your technology to other jurisdictions across borders, then that's in a sense export. You're an exporter.
Yeah.
But we're trying to change that vernacular a little bit to capture more of that market that's going international. But going back to the process, I mean, a lot of the times, particularly in the TAP program, there's almost these aha moments where companies have gotten to a certain point, and whether it's, they needed that one expert who can help them with their financing, or that one expert who can, ensure their products like EDC, or they just had they needed that one piece, that linchpin that kind of puts everything else into place. And we like to think of the TAP program as having all those pieces.
Oh, did we lose your audio? There you go. You're back. Okay. The problem with live, you never know what's going to happen. No, and that's great. And I mean, I've seen some of those, being at your events, and the companies in the alumni list is absolutely phenomenal. And I think that's so good that they also, give back into our economy, not only in the time of need. You've seen them, and they're always at your events, whether they're, interacting with the new ones and sharing their knowledge. And I mean, that's something that I just love seeing in, with your guys' functions. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, they're really an exceptional group of people. And even seeing within the cohorts as they get to know each other, some of them may be competitors, if you will, like depends on sort of who signs up. But the collaboration that happens, we've seen, I think we're up to about 10 local collaborations. So companies that met each other in the TAP program with their international expansion plans, and then ended up working together. One of my favorites is, I don't know if you've ever been to 118 Empire, which is the it's the restaurant in the Marriott Hotel, and they're really known for their smoky old fashions. They created that smoking board for at-home sales, and then partnered with another one of our TAP companies in their cohort, Black Cloud Bitters, and put together, packages for the Flames charity poker tournament. So, really cool collaborations that you never would have expected, and that maybe they hadn't have thought of, that come out of that as well. So we're pretty lucky.
No, absolutely. And that's great. The amount of people that you see working together to help each other grow and thrive is excellent. I mean, I was recently at a Silicon Valley pitch comp, not a, just kind of a talk there with Joanne Fedeko. And they were talking about the Alberta Immersion Program. CED obviously helps people go global. So before they go global, how does this program work, and what's their first step?
Sure. I mean, their first step would be obviously to connect with myself or my colleague Shona Riley. Have a conversation. We could grab a coffee and just understand sort of where they are in their process. Sometimes companies aren't quite ready for the Trade Accelerator program, so we offer other programming. We do export meetups pretty regularly. We're doing them fairly regularly. We'll have to figure out how to do that virtually, but and then some other programming that sort of will help the companies, be prepared to launch into the TAP program. And then, TAP itself is a 6-week time frame. They have 4 in-person days where they come together with the rest of the cohort. The first 2 days are fairly information intensive. So day 1 and day 2 are back to back, and we really bring in all of the experts, the local representatives in the ecosystem, to talk about their area of expertise. To be clear, we're very hard on it not being a sales pitch. So they're not allowed to come in and talk about the great tool that they have that companies could pay to use. They come in as experts in their field and subject area. And obviously there's a natural flow if a company reaches out to them and wants to do business. That's great outcome. But those first 2 days are fairly intense. And then 2 weeks later, they come back for a working day. The facilitator takes the companies through the export plan template. So we provide a template, and they talk about sections, and then they have working time to work on their own plan, ask questions. At the end of that day, we actually developed a best practice in Calgary that's been shared nationally. We do sort of a company huddle. Each company gets a few minutes of the floor to talk about, what's keeping them up at night, what's their biggest hurdle, or maybe what's their biggest opportunity. And the companies get to have a conversation and really help each other. Say, hey, I've actually gone through that. Here's my experience. Here's a resource I used, or have you thought about this, or should you reach out to this person? So it's a great sort of collaboration, watching the companies share information. And then they submit their export plans roughly 3 weeks later. And then they come back for day 4, which is one-on-one mentoring with all of those key experts that we had brought in sort of day 1 and day 2, who have read and evaluated their plans and give them specific feedback. And then they're allowed to ask their own questions, obviously. But really, the biggest thing is they graduate with an export ready, like an actionable plan to take forward, as well as this, Rolodex of key contacts that are there to support them in that journey.
No, that's excellent. And how does the Immersion Program work within this?
So the Immersion Program would be, in my opinion, it would be like the next step, right? So once a company has gone through something like TAP and has their plan, then, depending on the sector, we would then connect them with Joanne or Christy May as that next step, if the Valley is their target market. Yeah. Because as you know, connections are key in anything, whether you're looking for a job or to grow your business or find capital or whatever the case may be. So, for us at Calgary Economic Development, I think that's our biggest asset, is our connections. So our job is to know the right people in the right industries, in the right places that can support our companies. So for myself and for Shona, that's, making sure we have the key connections in the international markets where our companies are signaling. Obviously it's a big world. We can't be everywhere and know everybody, but we have an idea what the primary markets are for Calgary companies in the sectors that we operate in and where we have opportunity. So that's our job, is to make sure that we know the right people in those areas. And obviously the Immersion Program and Joanne and Christy would be one of those key contacts.
No, that's awesome. And again, I'm talking with Katie Findlay, the trade manager at Calgary Economic Development. For anything that we've discussed so far today, just go into the comments section, click on their website, calgaryeconomicdevelopment.com. It'll take you directly there. This is all great advice, and what you guys do to help promote the companies and get them to where they need to be internationally, and making sure that they're taking the proper steps as a business. So when they do go globally, that their chance of failure is diminished. And some people have big eyes and think that they can go global right away, but that is a little bit of a process. So I know you. Absolutely. Yeah, and I've talked to people that have gone through your cohort, and then you mentioned the Good Lawyer, and Brett's going to be on in a couple of weeks to talk about that as well. And I'm sure we'll touch on it on there. So I know. Obviously CED is a pillar in our community when it comes to the businesses. So what, I guess, short term here, to kind of talk about the coronavirus, what is CED going to do short term? And then kind of when we start getting back to, our normal lives, what is next for the Calgary Economic Development?
Great question. So as I mentioned, it's day 10 of working from home. So we're all, working from our home offices, as everybody is, learning every day about what sort of next steps are as far as government support. I think one of our primary roles, as I said earlier, is information. So vetting information that's coming out, trying to be that curated spot where companies can go and know that, we've done our due diligence and the information we're providing there is as up to date as possible, is validated through some form of connecting with the people that are behind that information. And then otherwise, I mean, for myself, for TAP, for our other programs, finding a new normal. We may need to be doing things virtually for a while. So, I mentioned we had to stop. We had completed day 1 and day 2 of our last cohort. So we will need to complete that day 3 and day 4, and then look at what, the future model looks like for now. The goal, of course, will be to get back to being in person because there's a lot of value in those. It's a little easier to connect on a deeper level when you're together as opposed to talking over each other on a computer. But and then, immediately, Shona and I are engaging on, we have 4 virtual roundtables that are happening with our TAP alumni over the next 10 days to get an understanding of how they're doing, how COVID-19 might be impacting their international expansion plans or their business in general, finding out from them how we can support them. So really getting straight from our companies, what do they need? How can Calgary Economic Development as a broader team support them? And then, as I mentioned, I'm sure that as this new normal shakes down and we have an idea of when things may go back to, I don't know, what it used to be or some version of what normal will be after, we'll be hopefully poised to carry on. I mean, here's the truth. The world still needs goods and services and technology. I think Canada has an opportunity to sort of get out there and be ready to hit go or to continue going as best we can through this crisis, and hopefully come out ahead at the end of this.
I sure hope so. I mean, it's definitely something that we're going to have to focus on. We're going to have to work together. I truly believe that. I mean, as we've talked about here, companies are already helping. And I think that, and what I've seen in being in this ecosystem for about 5 or 6 years now, is that it is a very close-knit ecosystem, the small business, the startup. There is a lot of help. There is a lot of sharing. And I truly believe that is going to get stronger over the next year or two, where people will be there for each other. Doesn't matter what industry it is.
Yeah, I hope so. I feel that too. I mean, our community has been tremendous already, stepping up. So hopefully we can all continue to support in some way so that, nobody gets left behind.
Yeah, exactly. So my last question for you today, Katie, is, and I always ask the same last question, and obviously with your expertise in through the TAP program and in expanding, what if somebody is thinking about, wanting to go international, what would be your advice, your first little tidbit for a small business startup or entrepreneur to start that process and set themselves up for success?
You bet. I would have 2. One, I would say is, and I think this probably is true of every industry, but, create your network, get out to events, start talking to people who are in that space, reach out to myself or my colleague, Shona. As I've mentioned a couple of times, Shona's our trade coordinator, and she's really my community guru. She's out there building the community as much as possible, but, talk to people who are in that space, who can maybe give you some advice on where to go to next. The Trade Accelerator Program is a fantastic resource if it's right for your company at that time. So those would be sort of my 2 things: is network, and then look at the resources and the programs that are available, like the Trade Accelerator Program.
And I can't agree with you more. I mean, networking is something that it's priority 1, and it's something that sometimes the small business owner, entrepreneur struggles with a little bit because they're working on their business and they forget that they need to get out there and actually talk to other people. So I mean, it's one of the reasons why I started Founders Coffee YYC. I mean, it's obviously postponed right now until we get through this COVID-19. But I mean, to get out there and talk to people and the connections that you're able to make that might grow into some sort of partnership down the road is priceless. So that's great advice. Thank you.
Awesome.
Perfect. And again, I'd like to thank you so much, Katie, for coming on today and sharing your knowledge, especially in this time. And if anybody needs any information, again, just click on the calgaryeconomicdevelopment.com website in the comments section, and you'll be able to find any of the information that was shared today. So, Katie, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. And if anybody wants to reach out on LinkedIn and if they had further questions or want to connect, feel free. So we're here.
Yeah, we're here. We're here to help. And again, thank you. And to everybody, stay safe out there. If you need to talk, reach out to myself, reach out to Katie, or just reach out to somebody that you want to know. You're not alone. And always remember, asking for help is not a sign of weakness. So again, thank you, Katie. And I hope everybody stays safe and take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Jade.
Bye-bye.
Bye.